What is going on? Welcome to this week's episode of the Second of Strength podcast. Wherever you're at, I'm grateful you're here. Grateful you're spending a couple of your seconds with me today. And look, as we are finishing up 2024, we're going into 2025. I think that this episode is really going to be a jumping off point to help you reach your potential starting from here until the rest of time, right? Like I think that ultimately, if I think about being happy and I think about the things that we're trying to accomplish and things that we want out of life, I think that it all starts with becoming the best version of ourselves. And I talk about that a lot because I think that probably I need the reminder most of all, but I think that we just have to, remind ourselves of what is possible. And so I think about there was back in the, long ago when Michelangelo was doing all his amazing sculptures, the David, Moses, like all of these incredible pieces of art that we probably take a little bit for granted. But somebody asked him, somebody said, hey, well, how did you do this? Like, because they're phenomenal, right? And he said, Michelangelo said, look, the sculpture is already complete within the marble before I even start my work. Has such an interesting mindset to take. Like, it's already there before he even starts. He says it's already there. I just have to chisel away all the excess material. And I think that that is such an analogy to our lives. And if we think about who we are and what we are capable of, the reality is that it's already inside of us. We just have to remove all of the excess material to step into who we can become and become the best version of us. And so, but I think there's a couple of things, if I think about Michelangelo and how he really did this, there's a couple of things that I think are really important. And so the question I want to answer today is, what do we need? What do you need? What do I need to chisel away and bring out the best version of you? What's it going to take? And I think there's just a couple of things. If I think about Michelangelo and how he was able to accomplish this, there's just a couple of things that he did that I want to just make sure that we are doing in our lives, because that best version of us, not only is it in there, it needs to come out. This world needs it to come out. There's people in your life who need the best version of you to come out. And you may know them now. They may be people in your life now, or they may come into your life later, but there are people who need that best version of you. So the very first thing is Michelangelo had the right tools, right? He had chisels, he had water, he had the marble itself. And so like he had the right tools to make this possible. And I think that too often, if we think about the best version of us, it's already there, but are we putting ourselves in the right environment? Are we putting ourselves in the right places and surrounding ourselves with the right people? And it's been said before, I've said it before, you hear it all the time, that we're the average of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with most. And so we have to ask, are those people helping us grow? Are they helping us step into our potential? Are they helping us learn and grow and become that best version of us? Because I always say that, just because somebody is in your circle of friends, your sphere of influence, just because somebody's in your circle, it doesn't always mean that they're in your corner. And so we have to recognize, do we have the right people and places in our lives to step into our potential? And if we don't, we might have to make some really tough decisions in 2025. We may have to make some tough choices that are going to hurt, that are going to sting, and that might sting some relationships, but it's going to help you grow in the long run. But we have to, if we want to chisel away at ourselves and become the best version of us, we have to surround ourselves with the right people that are going to help us grow and help us become better. So I think that's the very first thing. The second thing is, it takes a lot of time. And if you think about Michelangelo, and I should have looked up before I did this episode, but it didn't take him like a week to finish the David. It took years. And so if you think about us, we can't get frustrated that we haven't become the best version of us yet, or we haven't reached our potential, or we haven't arrived yet. We can't beat ourselves up because of that, because everything worthwhile takes time. And I think it's too easy in today's world, especially with social media, to look at other people who may be on a path that we like or that we want to be on, and we start comparing ourselves to those people. It happens all the time. We've got to stop comparing ourselves to others, because here's the reality. Those people that you're comparing yourself to, you don't know all that they went through. They went through all the time, the effort, the hard work that you're going through right now. Nobody was just lucky. Nobody, everybody went through that work. But those people, the people you're comparing yourself to, they were once where you are. but they didn't quit. They kept going. And so we've got to keep pushing. We've got to keep going. We've got to recognize that it is going to take time and it is going to take energy. And as you think about Michelangelo carving the David, it wasn't like I'm sure he got frustrated, but he didn't just like get frustrated and go, I'm just going to just go faster. I'm going to go harder. I'm going to push. Because if you do that, it would have broken. It would have crumbled. It would have ruined everything that he had started. And so I think that sometimes we have to recognize that it isn't these massive strokes or these massive things that are going to change us or help us become the person we want to become. It's small, consistent efforts over time that is going to put us in the place of growth, that is going to put us in the place of our maximum potential. It's those small, consistent hammers, those small, consistent chisel strikes that David did that got him there. And when we lose patience, the reality is that everything can fall apart. So what are those small, consistent things that you can do every single day, that you can do one hammer blow at a time? And I think what's interesting about the David, and I read this long ago in a book, that the David was not an ideal piece of marble. It was discarded for years. Nobody wanted it. It was warped. It was twisted. It was hard. Like nobody really wanted that piece of marble. But Michelangelo saw in that piece something phenomenal, something great, something that nobody else could see. And I think that that's a lot like us. I think that sometimes we feel a little bit discarded. Sometimes we feel like we're not good enough, or we're not worthy of happiness, or there's nothing great inside of us. And I just don't believe that. I believe that there's greatness inside of all of us, and we have the power to not only change our lives, but we have the power to change other people's lives based on simple actions, based on just day by day taking one step after another, day by day just standing up and trying again. I think that sometimes we think that courage is this, there's a quote, I can't remember who said it, but courage, sometimes courage is just, it doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is just standing up and taking another step the next day. Sometimes it's trying again. And I think we have to remember that all good things take time. Everything worthwhile takes time. You take time, the best version of you. So don't hold yourself hostage and beat yourself up because you haven't arrived yet. It's okay. You're going to get there. It takes a little bit of time, takes a little bit of effort. So that's the second thing. If you want to bring out the best of you and chisel away, it's going to take time. The third thing is this. If we want to, just like the David, just like the Moses, like we have to find out what's underneath. David removed the excess of these marble pieces to uncover the beauty of the statue that was inside. And I think that we have to do the very same thing. And I'm willing to bet, and I think that most people are in this state, that most people, if you take a hard look at your life right now, most people know what areas of life they are lacking, and they know exactly how to rise above it, but it's easier not to do it. That's really hard to come to terms with, because I think that most of us know what we need to do, but for many reasons, instant gratification, it's just simpler. It's just easier to not to do those things that take time and effort and energy. We don't. But here's the reality, is to give up. You have to give up what's wrong for you and strengthen what is right for you. It's very simple math, right? What is wrong for you right now, and how do you strengthen what's right for you? And a couple of very simple things that I know everybody in the world right now is struggling with, but we're struggling with wasted time, social media, Netflix, time consumption. And here's the sad reality, is that if you know that's the struggle, if you know that's the pain point in your life, if you know that's what's holding you back, it's keeping you from happiness and keeping you from potential, if you know that, and you are almost willing to give up social media or Netflix, or you're almost willing to give up anything that is consuming your time, then you will almost be ready to unlock your potential. That's a tough reality. That's a tough pill for me to swallow. It's a tough pill for anyone to swallow, but I'll say it again. If you are almost willing to give up the things that are consuming your time, but holding you back, then you will always be almost ready to unlock your potential. So think about that. Think about that today, and think about where your time and energy is going, that is not allowing you to pursue your passions and the best version of you. Because if it's going the wrong way, then it's really hard to make it to where we want to get to. So that's one thing. The next thing is relationships. Who is holding you back? Are there certain people in your life that are holding you back right now? And there's if you've ever heard this analogy before, but of crabs, I don't know if it's true or not, to be honest, but if you ever heard the analogy of crabs, if they are, in a crab trap in the ocean and one of those crabs tries to climb out, the other crabs will try and pull it back in. They will always pull it back in because, and if you think about your life, there are people who do not want you to grow. There's people that do not want you to become the best version of you because it means that when you do, you will leave them behind, and people don't like to be left behind. And so if people aren't willing to grow with you and somebody is holding you back, it's time to take a really hard look at who that person is, why they don't want the best for you. And then you got to maybe move on from those people. Again, who are you surrounding yourself with? To grow, we have to be willing to let go. And it's really hard to think about that. But if you think about, when you think about a plant, right? Like the plants that thrive the most are in fertile soil. They are planted, and you give them all the things, the water, the oxygen. You give them fertile soil. You give them sunlight. You give them all those things to grow. That's how plants grow. But you got to recognize that weeds grow too, and a weed will grow in the crack of pavement, but it is not fertile soil. You could not plant a fruit-bearing tree there. You could not plant something that you want to give back to your life in that crack, because it's not going to do it. So that is one of the biggest things. It's one of the hardest things. But if the best version of you is already inside, then we've got to cut away the things that are holding you back and keeping you from that true happiness, that true potential. So I hope this helps you today. Look, I understand that a lot of people are struggling, and if you think about this episode, the reality is that you may not feel like the best version of you is in there. And you think about you think about Michelangelo and carving this piece of marble that was discarded, and you think about this piece of marble that nobody wanted. And I think sometimes in life we feel that way. We feel like nobody wants us. We feel like we're discarded, that we're not good enough, that there's nothing great inside of us, that we can't reach our potential, that we can't become the person that is inside. And I hope that's not true. The best thing I could tell you right now is that version is inside of you. And it doesn't mean it's not hard. It doesn't mean it won't take time and energy and effort. But the best version of you is inside of you. But you have to be the one who's willing to bring it out of you. You have to be the one that puts in the right environment, that gets the right tools to surround you. You have to be the one that's a little bit strong enough to cut away the excess in your life and let go of instant gratification, let go of people who might be holding you back. And you have to be the one who is willing to put the time and energy and effort in day after day. Small steps, the smallest steps are the things that are going to bring you the greatest happiness, the greatest joy in life. And I know you're capable of it. And deep down, you're capable of it too. So I hope this helps you today. If it helps, share it with someone else. If maybe you really needed this today, but I'm willing to bet that there's somebody in your life who needs this today. Share it on Instagram. Share it to your stories. You can tag me at Real Tanner Clark. You can share it, to somebody in a text message or an email. And if you're willing, go and leave a rating and review for the show wherever you're listening to it, and subscribe. It helps me, but it also helps so you never miss another episode. So wherever you're at, I will leave you the same way I always leave you. Go find your 1 second of strength and be happy.